Hello, welcome back to the channel. I'm set in the new project car. This is my MGTF 160 VVC. Cylinder number 4. I think it's fair to say that this poor little car has seen better days. However, I do think the previous owner looked after it until it went wrong. It is a bit grubby, there are some problems with it, but I think basically it's going to be a very nice little car. It was going to be a track day car for me. However, I've spent far too much money on the 135. I need to recoup some of that cash. So this is now going to be a flip project. I'm going to do this up, do the best possible job I can, make it into a lovely little car that hopefully somebody else can enjoy for quite a few years to come. So before I do too much else, I need to get this engine running. So 5 things to check, the basic 5 things required to get an engine running: air, fuel, spark, compression, timing. So I'm going to make a start on those. I suppose there is a number 6 as well. We don't want this engine to be knackered. So what are the chances of this magically starting after sitting here for a year? Has it fixed itself? Never say I'm not an optimist, however, let's face it, no chance. Before I get down to the detailed diagnostics, I want to just have a look at the bores and see what the general health of the pistons and the cylinders is. So what I'm going to do is grab my latest acquisition, a Depstech Boroscope. Apart from a bit of detritus sitting on top of piston number 2, they're actually looking amazingly clean and in really good condition. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure I can say the same about the valves. I'm looking at cylinder number 1 at the moment, and these are the inlet valves, and that is looking seriously like a crack. Just for interest, this is the Depstech, it's a bit of a mouthful, especially when you can't pronounce your S's properly. This is the Depstech Boroscope, and comes in a box like that. Just picked it up off of Amazon. It's a 1080p, so I suppose that counts as high def, and rechargeable battery, and I'm actually quite happy with it. Yeah, it's the only one I've had, so I couldn't tell you if it's the best quality or what, but to me it seems pretty good. If you know of a better one, stick something in the comments down below, might help somebody. But it's got a side camera as well as the main camera, LEDs for light, decent screen, and it takes a SD card in the bottom here, which is how I got all the videos off it. And yeah, like I say, quite happy with it. When I'm making these videos, I tend to edit as I go along. So the advantage of that is that I spent a couple of hours last night looking at all the videos from the Depstech, bringing them into DaVinci Resolve, which is the editing software we use, and because I'm doing that on the MacBook, I can actually see in a lot more detail than I can on the 4.3 inch screen. So that's where I picked up on potential cracks in valves and that kind of thing. So the first job of the day is to get the Depstech back out, and I want to have a look at cylinders 1 and 2 in more detail. Looking again at cylinder number 1, I'm still worried about one of the inlet valves having a crack. I'm also a little bit concerned about the exhaust valves not closing properly. One of them seems to be worse than the other, but I think there's something there. I did have an instance yesterday where when I was looking through all the cylinders, I could see the inlet valves of both 4 and 1 open at the same time. 4 was on its inlet stroke, so theoretically the valves in 1 should have been closed. I then had to go off for lunch. I came back later and the valves were closed in cylinder 1. Now, I do not remember touching anything in between. I don't remember turning the engine, anything. It's almost like they hadn't closed properly and then snapped closed whilst I was away. The Boroscope's going back in the box and in the cupboard for the time being. The answer to the question, is the engine knackered, is kind of uncertain at the moment. Possibly there are some issues with the top end. I think now I'm going to move on to doing the timing, and probably the first job is to get the auxiliary belt off and get the harmonic balancer off. Just going to get the cover off and then I'll be back. I've turned the crankshaft, lined up the timing marks, and I have to say I'm a little bit concerned about how loose this timing belt is. After having a bit of a Muppet moment, I can confirm that the timing at this end of the engine is correct. This is the second timing belt. The gears here are also perfectly aligned. I think that's it for the timing. It's all looking good. Next thing I'm going to do is repeat the compression test, because it's been a year since it was run, and I do have some concerns over those exhaust valves, especially in cylinder number 1. So just want to double check the compression, make sure the things haven't seized up a bit over the last year or so whilst the car's just been standing. This is cylinder number 1, cylinder number 2, cylinder number 3, cylinder number 4. First compression test, figures are cylinder number 1, 160 psi, cylinder number 2, 220 psi, cylinder number 3, 230 psi, cylinder number 4, 130 psi. So I'm going to try it with a little bit of oil in each of the balls now, see if that changes the figures at all. For the second test, actually managed to get best part of 220 psi out of cylinder number 1. This is with some oil in the bore. Maybe there's a problem with the rings sealing, and either the oil has actually increased the seal, or it's freed up the rings. Maybe the rings were a bit stuck. And just repeated the same test with a bit of oil in the bore for cylinder number 4, and that's back up to about 160. So it actually is reading about the same as it was last year. Thought I'd just rig that up so we can see everything that's going on. Obviously all 4 spark plugs are sparking. Temporarily pretend that this is red because it's connected to the live of the battery. And if this illuminates it, then hopefully that means I've got a pretty good earth from the engine. So I'll try that on a few different parts of the engine, and can be pretty confident that we've got a decent engine earth there. I think it's time for a quick summary. Out of the 6 basics that I wanted to check, I can be pretty confident that the engine condition is not so bad that it's not ever going to run. So I think number 6 for the time being, so is the engine knackered? I don't think it's knackered, no. I suspect the head needs a clean, but I suspect the engine's going to be okay. Yeah, it is turning over without knocking, crashing, banging. I think it should run. I've also checked the compression. Again, one of the cylinders is down on compression, but not enough to stop it from running completely. It might not be 100% smooth because number 4 is down, but again, there is enough compression there for the engine to run. I've proven we got spark, and what else have I done? I have checked the timing, and the timing is good end to end as well. So that just leaves us with air and fuel. The most likely candidate, to be honest, is going to be fuel. There's a lot more to the fuel system than there is to the air system. The only thing I can immediately think of that I need to check for air is the manifold absolute pressure sensor. So I think what I'm going to do is look at the fuel system next. So I did think of one more thing to look at on the air inlet side, and that's the idle air control valve. So I'll be looking at that, the rest of the air inlet system, the fuel system in quite a lot of detail I suspect, general engine condition in more detail, seeing if I can do, if there's any way I can have a look at the bottom end of the engine. I shall be doing all that in the next video. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Cheers, bye.